Okay, welcome to the video, guys. Today I am going to be ranking Mission Impossible films 1 through 7. Let's get into it. In honor of Final Reckoning coming out on May 22nd, I figured I should go through and rewatch all of the Mission Impossible films. So that's what I did, and now I feel like ranking them. I'll go ahead and rank them from worst to best. However, I don't think any of them are really like bad films necessarily. And then I'll just kind of put them here on this beautiful graphic template that I went ahead and made. And we'll just kind of move them down or whichever direction as I go through each film. Okay, so starting off with 1996 Mission Impossible 1. This film is directed by Brian De Palma and is an adaptation of the classic television series Mission Impossible. There's going to be some mild spoilers, especially for this film, just because I think there's a fairly big twist towards the beginning of the movie. If you haven't seen it, or you haven't seen it in a long time, go back and revisit it before checking out the rest of this video, or at least skip a few minutes ahead. But at the beginning of this movie, Ethan Hunt is a part of a team with other stars such as Emilio Estevez, who was big at the time, and Jon Voight. And during this first kind of 20 minutes, you see the camaraderie between this team. It feels fun. It's got a heightened, cool, classic spy type of feel to it. Ethan Hunt has this kind of swagger that we don't really see him with again in the later films, but he has this kind of like charisma to him that quickly just kind of gets wiped away when his entire team is murdered about 20 minutes into this film. From a story perspective, I think this is just one of the most bold choices in any Mission Impossible film, and such a great tone setter for the rest of this movie, because after his team gets picked off one by one and you see Ethan Hunt just doing everything he can to try to save them and failing left and right, he's just broken down. But then it gets to the point where he has to solve who was the rat, who betrayed his team. So then the movie slips into this kind of feeling of Ethan Hunt being completely paranoid, on the run, trying to uncover this mystery, and it becomes just a complete and total spy thriller. I watched this a lot as a kid, and I don't think I really understood it, but for some reason I still liked it. And then when I was like 18, I remember watching it and being like, whoa. Like I turned the subtitles on, I was like, whoa, this movie's actually really good. And then every subsequent time I've watched it, including this time, I've been like, I finally get it. I finally get it. With dense layers of clues and plot, and it doesn't just unravel in this spoon-fed kind of way. It's the kind of movie I do recommend having your subtitles on for. Put your phone away during it. Like, don't get distracted, because there's so many visual cues and all of these little clues layered throughout that if you don't pick up on them, then you might get left behind by the story. And I think that's one of the reasons that this movie is so engaging to watch for me now. It puts you in the shoes of feeling like a spy. Like if you figure certain things out, or you catch little looks or moments that characters give each other, and you kind of figure out what they're doing, you're like, oh damn, like you feel cool. Like I know what that means because I'm paying attention, and you feel like you're included in this spy adventure, that you are a spy. Now, the double-edged sword to that is I don't think the movie did so well with audiences at the time because it was so confusing and difficult to follow. It wasn't a popcorn movie like James Bond movies can be. It wasn't just a turn-your-brain-off action film. I think you can still enjoy it if you were to miss a lot of the beats, but if you give this movie the attention and time it deserves, it's one of the best thrillers out there. I'm a big fan of Mission Impossible. And for now, yeah, we're just going to go ahead and place that kind of here in the middle. And as we add more films, we'll kind of move things around. And yeah. Okay, Mission Impossible 2 from 2000, directed by John Woo. I think this is fairly common knowledge, but it's important to note that Tom Cruise had wanted to have a different director helm each Mission Impossible sequel so that they would feel different in tone and style from each other. So John Woo is a huge left turn from Brian De Palma in the first movie, right? Brian De Palma was like a suspense and thriller master. John Woo, martial arts film director, stunt, spectacle, and of course the slow motion and doves are iconic John Woo pieces. This is another one that I loved as a kid. You know, the moments when Ethan Hunt pulls off the mask of the villain and reveals himself was always one of those moments like, oh my god, like there were so many cool things in the movie, the motorcycle sequence and the rock climbing at the beginning, and I really do have a soft spot in my heart for the early 2000s cheese. You get the Limp Bizkit music and Metallica and the sunglasses. But man, this is actually a pretty tough movie to get through today. I really struggled with this one. It feels like the movie could have been 45 minutes long if it had cut out so much of the slow motion and just been on a regular 24 frames per second. It just crawls so slowly sometimes. You know, it's weird because I think the criticism of the first movie was maybe it was slow or boring for a lot of people who watched it, and the second one was the big action, kind of mind-numbing, crazy one. But watching them again, it's just the complete opposite. The first movie is so engaging. This one has just these slow, drawn-out scenes, even dialogue scenes that are just, there's all this slow motion, and it just takes forever to move through a scene. And man, there's some cool slow motion parts, but it's just too much throughout it, and it's a very, very slow and difficult to get through movie for me, or at least it was this time around. So we are going to place that behind Mission Impossible 1. Okay, Mission Impossible 3, J.J. Abrams directing, 2006. Again, I remember as a kid I was highly anticipating this film, and I really loved this as a kid. Hadn't seen it in a long time, though. So revisiting it, of course, some of the standouts are Philip Seymour Hoffman's performance. I think he's an incredible villain in it. Other than that, that's about it for me. This movie didn't really age well for me. It feels very stuck in its time. You know, it was very popular at the time to kind of have these grounded, realistic feeling spy movies or action movies, right? Having Ethan Hunt settle down with a wife, and then it becomes that his wife is kidnapped, or it's kind of a revenge story and saving his wife. It just doesn't feel like what I want in a Mission Impossible movie. And there's something to just like the style of the film and the directing of the film that just feels very of its era. And I know I'm just coming off of talking about Mission Impossible 2, which is very much of its era. And I don't think any of the action scenes are that memorable. Like one of the most memorable stunts in it is the shot of Tom Cruise running away from an explosion and kind of slamming into a car. And it's a cool shot, but that's like the stunt. In comparison to the first two movies or the movies that come later, I just don't feel the action stands out in this. It's kind of just whatever for me. So Mission Impossible 3 on my list is actually going above Mission Impossible 2 because it's just more watchable than Mission Impossible 2. So, yeah. Moving right along here to Mission Impossible 4, Ghost Protocol, directed by Brad Bird and came out in 2010. Brad Bird had directed The Incredibles and some other animated films. Oddly enough, I think that was such a huge strength to him in Ghost Protocol because I think he has such a great pulse on how to create humor within action, and it brings Simon Pegg into the main fold as part of the team member. You have Jeremy Renner and Paula Patton in it. A huge standout to the action in this film is that there isn't really a whole lot with like gunplay. It's not like your typical action film shoot 'em up explosion type of thing. These are like in really intense, thrilling, stunt-focused moments. Obviously, like the Burj Khalifa scene is such a phenomenal piece of stunt work. Even rewatching it now, you're on the edge of your seat, like, and it's a long sequence with it's just heart pumping, like, oh my god, you know, you still feel like Tom Cruise is gonna fall off that building. It's such a great scene, but everything that's happening inside of the building with the rest of the team during that is so fun and witty and well timed, and it's so engaging. One of the things this movie does very effectively is it takes these kind of overpowered or cheesy gadgets that previous films have had. It brings them into the movie, but every time they're there, there's something faulty with them, like they're just not working properly. When they're walking through the hallways of the Kremlin with the screen that's supposed to be a projected screen of the hallway and the projector just keeps going out, or on the Burj Khalifa scene when his glove is going out and he's gonna fall. It's like they have these cool gadgets, but they're all faulty and they're not working properly, and I just think it's such a fun element. You're so stressed about the gadgets failing, and then the whole plan could fall apart because of it. Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol is a banger of a film. Absolutely love it. So on my list, it is going below Mission Impossible 1, though. So we're going to put that behind Mission Impossible 1 and above, leagues above Mission Impossible 3 and 2. Okay, moving forward, we are on to Rogue Nation. This is directed by Christopher McQuarrie, who becomes a mainstay for the franchise from here on out. Rogue Nation really takes the formula that was set in Ghost Protocol and does something similar, kind of focusing on these team-oriented set pieces where you're chasing a certain MacGuffin, but you only have X amount of time and you have to be in and out, and everybody has some key role to make sure the mission goes smoothly. And that's really when Mission Impossible is at its best, when it's focused on these team-oriented missions. Really, this is the first time that a film has felt similar to the movie that came before it, because the first 4 films are all pretty drastically different. The only downside is, though, I just don't think it's quite as good as Ghost Protocol, although I love the addition of Rebecca Ferguson. I think the motorcycle chasing is phenomenal. So much good happening here, and I'm happy to watch this movie any day, and if every Mission Impossible movie followed this formula moving forward, I would be happy for that too. It's just a good formula. That being said, we're going to put this on the list slightly below. We're going to put this on the list below Ghost Protocol, though, as I do think Ghost Protocol is a superior film to this one. I like Rogue Nation, though, quite a lot. But going behind Ghost Protocol. All right, Mission Impossible Fallout. This is the 6th entry in the Mission Impossible series and Christopher McQuarrie's 2nd film. Oddly enough, though, I think it shakes up the formula. I think this one is a very unique, structured film for Mission Impossible and for a spy film in general. I love Henry Cavill's addition. I love this kind of, is he good, is he bad? Okay, he's probably bad, but we need to work with him anyway type of thing. The whole bathroom fight sequence is just unreal. Absolutely love that fight scene. The skydiving sequence is really cool. That's one of the big practical stunts that they promoted for this movie. However, the CG storm that they kind of make them fly through, unfortunately, does kind of take away a little bit of the luster of it being a real stunt piece. You can tell it's CG, and it kind of CGifies the whole sequence, and so, like I said, it kind of takes away a little bit from it. The helicopter sequence at the end is, it's the most insane and stunning, real practical stunt things that they did in these Mission Impossible movies. And they bring back Ethan Hunt's wife from the 3rd movie, and I know I kind of dogged on the inclusion of the wife in the 3rd movie, but they found a way in Fallout to bring her character back and tie a bow on it and also have it elevate the plot. Like, it actually elevated the stakes in that final act. It was really impactful and made it a very dramatic and amazing sequence. So in a way, it kind of makes Mission Impossible 3 look a little better in retrospect, because if they didn't introduce a wife character, then this movie couldn't have done this with that character. I do think there is some clunkiness to it, though. Rebecca Ferguson's inclusion does feel a little bit more shoehorned into it this time because she was such a fan favorite from the 5th one. But overall, absolutely great film, going above Rogue Nation in my list, but still below Ghost Protocol, as I do think that is the better film here. Okay, we're on to our final one, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. This movie originally was going to be titled Dead Reckoning Part 2, so Final Reckoning that's coming out would have been Dead Reckoning Part 2. Wait, what the f*** did I just say? Dead Reckoning Part 1 is what this would have been called. This new one would have been called Dead Reckoning Part 2. I'm glad they did away with the Part 1, Part 2 thing. The new one's Final Reckoning. This is Dead Reckoning. So it is a bit of a precursor to the new movie. Anyways, Christopher McQuarrie's 3rd outing. This film is so entertaining and so well done. It feels like it fits into the formulas very well of kind of what to expect with a Mission Impossible movie, but it still delivers. Like, the train sequence at the end is so intense. It's one of the most intense sequences for the finale of a Mission Impossible movie that I've seen. The whole airport spy sequence that begins the film is so intriguing and fun. I love the inclusion of the cast of characters. Ving Rhames, I haven't talked about him enough. He really just nails it. He can even deliver the kind of corny lines, or the lines that are just spoon-feeding the audience what's happening in the plot. But he does it so well. But yeah, I don't want to go too into spoilers if you haven't seen this one, but there's some stuff with Rebecca Ferguson. Don't love how it's handled. And I do think that the big spectacle stunt of this one, going off the ramp with the motorcycle, was a bit underwhelming because they chose to CG the ramp and turn it into a big kind of rocky cliff thing, but it doesn't look like a real rock feature, so it just kind of feels like an obvious, weirdly shaped ramp that's disguised. Even though the stunt was done practically, I just think maybe if they could have chosen a different angle, there's something that needed to be done a little differently there. Having it be a one-er shot going off the ramp with it being CG just really takes away a lot of it for me. The car chase with the little yellow car through the middle of the film is one of my favorite sequences in the movie, and probably the best car chase Mission Impossible has done. It's so fun. The way they blend humor with action. That's one of the great strengths of the Mission Impossible movies, the way they blend humor with action, and then there's still stakes to it all. It's so well done. They're such great action movies. I do love Dead Reckoning. I'm going to have to put this... I'm putting it above Fallout for now. It may change with time. I've seen it less than the others, but I'm putting it above Fallout and below Ghost Protocol for now. That's my list. After going through them all, Mission Impossible 1 still takes the throne. It's such a great film. I've seen this movie over and over again throughout my life, and it's just gotten better and better and better. And there's not a lot of films I can say that for. So, one of the greatest movies ever made, and I love Brian De Palma as a director. I think he's one of the greatest, and he's a little bit underrated, maybe. I don't know. Maybe not. But anyways, Mission Impossible Final Reckoning. I can't wait to see it next week. I'll let you guys know what I think of it, and after a first viewing, I'll add it to this list somewhere and tell you what I think. Are they going to go No Time to Die with the ending? I don't know. We'll find out. Let me know what your guys' favorite Mission Impossible movie is in the comments below, or your ranking of them. Do you agree? Do you disagree with my list? Thank you guys for watching to the end, and yeah, we'll catch you next video.